Welcome back to General Psychology. So today we're going to talk about why people study psychology. And in fact, actually, one of the interesting things is most people who study psychology do not work in as a therapist or a clinical psychologist. That really accounts for a small number of psychology graduates. Most of you are probably taking this course because it meets some transfer and general education requirements, not because you're going to be a psychology major, but some of you are. But actually, one of the things I want to convince you of is that psychology has applications to a variety of different careers. And in fact, most people do not work as a psychologist. And in fact, the courses in psychology are really relevant and interesting to many people. In fact, psychology is the top major at Las Positas College. We transfer more students than any other major here. And in fact, there are 5 reasons why college students tend to choose to study psychology. One is they're interested in helping others, they're really interested in the subject matter, maybe they're trying to understand themselves, or maybe they have particular interests in research or particular careers they're focused on. And that was me, actually. I was a psychology major in my junior year, so I had been at Davis for 3 years, bouncing around to many different majors before I finally settled on psychology. I had always been interested in the brain and in neuroscience, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with that and what direction to go. In addition, psychology is not just popular at Las Positas, it's popular around the country. In fact, you can see it's one of the top majors in the US. These are the number of graduates from the 1950s through 2008. Blue are bachelor's degrees, and then purple is people who earn master's degrees, which usually take about 2 to 3 years after your bachelor's degree. And then people who get doctoral degrees like myself, that actually usually takes anywhere from 4 to maybe 8 years after your bachelor's degree. One of the advantages of education, as I'm sure you've heard before, is that it actually protects you from recessions and other kinds of negative impacts. So people who have graduate degrees or bachelor's degrees have lower unemployment rates than people who have a high school diploma. You can see here for psychology and social work, graduate degree holders only have about a 3.2% unemployment rate. People with a recent college graduate have a little bit higher, 7.3, but that's actually much lower than the average, especially in some other areas like arts and architecture. Now, there are a variety of undergraduate degrees, so college degrees you can get in psychology. You can get an associate's degree, so maybe you're working on an associate's degree for transfer in psychology, or a bachelor's degree, either a BA, a Bachelor of Arts, or a Bachelor's of Science degree. BA degrees usually have a social science or humanities focus. Bachelor's of Science degrees usually have a natural science emphasis, maybe in statistics, math, biology, something like that. And you can complete a variety of different courses as a psych major, okay, depending on where you're going to go. Every university has particular requirements. And in fact, most psychology graduates work in a variety of fields. Most of them are not psychologists, as I mentioned earlier. Only about 25 to 30% are working in clinical settings. You can see down here in these pie charts, when people with a bachelor's degree are asked what area they're working in, you can see about 34% say somewhat related to psychology, another 34% say not at all related to psychology, and only 31% say very closely related to psychology. Once you've gone to graduate school, you get a bit more focus, so you can see that once you have a master's degree, about 81% of people say they're working in a closely related field, only about 5% say they're not in a related field at all. But psychology graduates enter things like business, marketing, education, technology, social work, corrections. About 10% of psych students are work in correctional services, and a small number of students work in technology. For example, technology startups. They may work in business, marketing, HR. HR is actually a big area for us where we transfer a lot of students who are interested in human resources. So when you look at people with a bachelor's degree, either a BA or a BS degree, which is in green here, most of them are at for-profit companies, but some are working for state or local government, a smaller number are working in federal government or colleges and universities, and some in other educational settings, maybe working at a private high school or in a preschool environment. About 25% of all psychology students will pursue a graduate degree. They'll either get a master's degree or a doctorate in philosophy or a doctorate in psychology. So a master's degree, again, usually takes 2 to 3 years. You can focus on research, teaching, or doing clinical work if you want to get a degree in marriage and family therapy, an MFT. Those usually take 2 to 3 years after your undergraduate degree. And they can be somewhat competitive, so it's good to sort of scout out what schools you're interested in and start to get yourself prepared for graduate school as soon as you transfer. If you're interested in getting a doctoral degree, you can either work on a doctorate in philosophy, which is what I have. These are general PhD degrees for people who are interested. They can be in English or psychology in any number of areas. Mine is in animal behavior specifically, but it could be in psychology. They're a little bit different than a doctorate in psychology. A doctorate in psychology is usually offered by it's a clinical program, so it's really to do clinical work. It's to be working with people with depression and anxiety and relationship counseling and those kinds of settings, or school counseling. They're usually funded by private schools, so it's a little bit more expensive, but it may take less time. So whereas a master's degree may take 2 to 3 years, PhD may take 5 to 8 years, a PsyD may take 4 to 6 years. Okay, but it's a bit more expensive to attend a PsyD program. And there are many areas in psychology that people study when they go into graduate school. You can work as a school psychologist, as a counselor, human factors, which are the people who design the iPhones or other phone, how it looks on the screen, how your dashboard in your car or helicopters or airplanes. Those are all developed by designers as well as human factors psychologists. You can work in public health and health psychology, helping people to try to change diet or exercise habits. Psychometrics, which is the study of measurement. So how do you measure psychological things like intelligence? A lot of standardized testing are built and constructed by psychologists who specialize in psychometrics. You can also enter industrial or organizational psychology, neuroscience, developmental psychology. APA has a variety of resources to investigate some of these careers. I also have some books available, and I can point you in the right direction if you're interested in learning more. Great, thank you very much.